Okay, everybody, let's talk about sea bunnies. This should be fun. No intro is needed here. If you haven't read the story, boy, are you missing out. But I'll explain how it goes down to you right here. If you have read the story, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's get to this because there's so much to unpack here. Sea bunnies is the latest story in Fazbear Frights' Friendly Face. It's possibly the weirdest story FNAF has seen so far. And it's kind of what's caused a big swing in the fan base regarding these stories and whether people actually like them or not. So, yeah, it's a big deal. So, this is another story that actually takes place in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for some of it. It involves Mott and his little brother, Rory. Now, these two aren't actually feuding like a lot of the other siblings in these stories. They actually seem to have a pretty good relationship. Now, Rory buys some sea bunnies with his tickets at the place, and sea bunnies are apparently these weird, like, mix of sea monkeys and also Bonnie from the restaurant. Really strange thing. Actually, before we continue, let me just quickly mention, it has been confirmed that these stories, some of them were actually not made for FNAF, by one of the authors, Kelly Para. I'll pull it up here. Something about an email about, how some of the stories were originally made to just be standalone stories, but then they were kind of re-edited to fit FNAF or something like that. It was posted on the subreddit. Not many people know about it, but I figured I'd bring it up here because it's interesting. I might make a full video on that later. Let me know if you'd like to see that. It's interesting stuff. Yeah, so basically some of these stories weren't even meant to be FNAF in the first place, and I think Sea Bunnies is definitely one of those, because it doesn't make any sense why Fazbear Entertainment would be manufacturing these Sea Monkey and Bonnie hybrid things. It's weird. And when these things hatch eventually out of their weird little eggs, they become these little, like, tadpole thing, kind of, but they're blue. And they kind of swim around, and Mott really doesn't like him. Mott is kind of unnerved by them, and so it seems like they don't really like him much either, because they start swimming in formation in the fish tank and kind of staring at him, and eventually they start whispering to him. Yeah, weird already. They start to whisper at him more and more, insulting him and saying he's scared and stuff like that. And he's really concerned by this, obviously, and he starts actually like trying to listen to music all the time to drown out the noise because they're constantly whispering to him at a certain point. It escalates really quickly, actually, this story, which I can appreciate, even if it's a weird story otherwise. It escalates pretty quickly, and it doesn't waste too much time. And so he tries to drown out this noise that they're making. You can't be listening to music all the time to kind of drown out this noise. And so eventually, it's just too much for him. One day, the goldfish that lives in the same tank as the sea bunnies, his name is Fritz, because of course there's a character named Fritz in this story. For those who don't know, Fritz is also the name of, I believe, one of the missing children. And I think one of the night guards that we've had in the series in FNAF 2. So this is the third character we've had named Fritz, because it's just, it's that common of a name. Don't know why it's such a problem with reusing names in this series, but anyway. And Fritz, yeah, he's being attacked by the sea bunnies, and Mott pulls him out of the fish tank. He rescues him. Keep in mind, Rory doesn't seem to be home at this point in the story, if I remember correctly. And so Mott is kind of alone with these things, and he's seeing they are attacking Fritz, and upon closer inspection, Mott realizes that they are actually pulling Fritz the fish apart, and they're actually seeming to be replacing Fritz with an exact replica made out of these little sea bunny things. That's right, Fritz the fish is being replaced with sea bunnies, because of course he is. I'll just let that sink in for a bit, because I feel like it took me at least a second to kind of grasp the weirdness of that situation. Have you guys seen these? This is absurd to me. It's Reese's Cups with potato chips, and I don't know how to feel about this. Am I the only one who's never seen this before? Please tell me I'm not the only one. This is peculiar. I need to eat these. ASMR with Chris. ASMR with Chris. So basically, Mott decides this isn't enough is enough, okay, and I don't blame him. These things are creepy and probably evil, and so he decides he's gonna flush them down the toilet, which is kind of spoiled from the description of the story, so it's not that big of a spoiler or a surprise, but it happens. This is good. This is genuinely good. It's got that crunch, I don't like Reese's Puffs, they're kind of crunchy actually, but like, it's normal Reese's Cups. That's very good. I like that a lot. So this is where the story starts to make a little less sense. So Mott flushed these sea bunnies down the toilet because they're evil, and then he goes to drink a glass of water, and he feels a lump in his throat. So I don't know if the implication here is that the sea bunny somehow escaped from being flushed and got into his drink of water. Maybe a bit far-fetched. I don't know if that's what they're saying here. And so for the next few days, Mott is starting to feel really sick. He feels like there's something in his stomach, kind of like in Room for One More, where the main character in that story, Stanley, had these mini arenas inside of him, and they were kind of like tearing him apart from the inside, kind of pushing around at his insides, and it was scary. It's kind of like that, but he's feeling like stomach cramps and stuff. Mott is. This gets so concerning to him that he goes to the doctor, and apparently nothing's wrong. Can't seem to find anything wrong going on, so I'm sure it's fine. And this is where it starts to get really bad. So basically, Mott is being pulled apart by these things like Fritz the fish was. He's being slowly pulled apart, and one night he actually realizes that maybe this is something he should go to the doctor for, and even the hospital. This is probably an emergency. And at this point, he's turning blue like Fritz was, and he decides, okay, you know what? There has to be something wrong with me now. They didn't find anything before, but now they should be able to. I'm literally dying. And so he goes to the hospital, and he doesn't quite make it all the way. And because he's scratching his skin. He's scratching his skin because it's getting itchy. It's getting almost see-through. Really weird. And so he starts scratching, and all of a sudden he tears a piece of his arm off. And he realizes that the arm is made of sea bunnies, and so he's freaking out. He's kind of scratching at himself, and he's realizing he's slowly being replaced by sea bunnies like Fritz the fish was. And so he's trying quickly to reach the hospital, and he's almost there, and he's starting to, his mind is starting to go, because obviously it's being replaced by sea bunnies, naturally. And he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it to the hospital. I'm sorry. Mott sadly perishes. He's turned into sea bunnies. Mott is turned into sea bunnies. I don't know what to say about that. Remember when this series was about time traveling ball pits, and we thought that was weird? And now we have sea monkey bunny hybrids tearing people apart. Oh, I love this series. It's amazing. Yeah, so he's replaced by sea bunnies, and one of the nurses inside the clinic sees this new sea bunny version of him. And they have a little conversation about how nice the day is outside. In the pouring rain, by the way. And that's the end of the story. So, I think we've kind of gotten to the point in the series where we are realizing that just because a story is very weird and out of place does not mean that it's connected to the lore at all. It might just be a weird and strange and out of place story. I feel like there was a point in the series where we were thinking that because the story seems weird and out of place, it must have some importance to the lore, and that's why it seems weird. But now I think I'm starting to kind of think instead that maybe the reason these stories are weird is just because these stories weren't originally meant for the series. I don't know what the writing process was behind most of these stories, but it seems disconnected, And it's not necessarily a bad story, it's just a bad FNAF story. And I saw that in a lot of reviews in this story. On its own, it's a weird story, but it's cool. But as a FNAF story, that makes the weirdness just turn up to 11. And it's kind of unnecessary. And we've had good stories lately in the series, don't get me wrong. What we found was, I think most of us can agree, fantastic. The next story, Together Forever, without getting into too much, was pretty good. I personally enjoyed it a fair amount. It's probably the goriest story in the series, in my opinion. Worse than Pizza Kit, worse than, I don't know, In the Flesh or something. And yeah, I think it's pretty good, and the connection to FNAF is there, I think, better than in this story. But this one is just, it's so peculiar. And I feel like this is the point where Scott, as he was going more and more insane, kind of peaked, and then this is it. This is the climax of just the pure insanity that we've been seeing unfold. It's like watching a man go mad, and it's really fascinating. Next time we will cover Together Forever. I will say, I think the characters in this story were actually done really well. For what it was, I think that the characters were pretty realistic, and their development was done really well. So yeah, I think that part was done alright. I even think the horror was done decent. It's just when you try and connect that to the FNAF universe is, I think, where it goes wrong. If I had to, dissect this and figure out what went wrong, that's what I would say. But yeah, next time we'll be covering Together Forever. Thank you guys for listening, for watching, for whatever it is you're doing. If you've tuned out by now, thank you for at least clicking on the video. And if you've clicked off the video before you got to this point, thank you anyway for giving it a shot. If you never clicked on the video, that's a shame, but thank you for at least, I don't know where I'm going with this. Thanks, guys. Here's a short message from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by the Elementia Studios Discord. On there, you can chat with other FNAF fans and just fans of the channel. You can showcase your fan art, you can discuss your theories, you can just hang out with cool people. It's fun, you'll like it. So the link will be in the description, so you can check it out if you want to. That's about it. Okay, see ya.